Boom. All right. Uh-oh. Ingrid sending them. All right, I think we're there. All right, cool. So what's up? I don't know who's on yet, but those that are going to join us, we appreciate you hanging out with us. It's been a minute since we've done this next level man thing, but typically the reason I do this is because I think that there are a lot of young men or men in general who would like to be better than they are, who want to become better people. For some reason, they're not. One of the main reasons might be just because they don't have the right examples. We as men sometimes don't know how or don't like to or think that it's soft for us to ask questions, right? Maybe we don't have the right people in our lives to ask questions. And then sometimes we just have the wrong examples in our lives, right? That are setting the examples for us. And it messes us up because we don't know any better. So we follow who or what we see. And I was talking to a friend of mine, Manina, and it's actually funny that she told me about the situation. She actually posted it on her Facebook page where she was at some function and a gentleman approached her, and he was very polite, and I think she was taken aback by it because for the most part guys will come to her, or she has been become accustomed to, yo baby, hey ma, hey sweetheart, or dang, you look good, and all this other nonsense, right? And so when this guy did it, it was like a breath of fresh air, but it stood out because it's not what she's used to. And so, Jazz, are you able to hear me yet? But you can't speak? No. So here's the thing. When I was right when she posted that and we talked about it a bit, I was already thinking about this is a topic that I wanted to do. And so I reached out to Chris, and of course, no question. Yes, I'm down. And by the way, is it okay to say where you at?
Yeah.
So Chris is overseas. He's in Spain, right? And so it's 2:00 in the morning over there. But because he's a guy that I just appreciate, and he's just a supportive brother of mine, no problem. He's on. And I reached out to Jazz and I said, Jazz, this is what I'm trying to do. And Jazz was like, I'm cool as long as, because initially I was going to say how to talk to females. And Jazmine says, I'm down if you change it to how to talk to women. Right. And so I really.
Oh, you have stipulations, Jazz?
Yeah, stipulations.
It was in the contract?
No. And then when I put the flyer up and I sent it, she was like, listen, I told you women, not females. You need to get it right. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, so I really was hoping, I'm really hoping that this audio situation gets fixed, because I would love to know from a female's perspective, a woman's perspective, why she insisted that I change it to women instead of females first. Chris, do you have an idea of why she would have said that?
I can only guess that a lot of women take the title of a woman as being, that's like the final stage, right? They don't want to be called a girl. They don't want to be belittled by anything less than being, a woman. Just like a man being a man. If someone call you a boy, it's the same thing. You don't want to be called a boy. You want to be called a man. So it's the same concept. And I think female is more gender than it is specifying, their role. As a
coming
woman.
of age.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Exactly. So that's the only thing I could think of. I don't want to speak for Jazmine, but that's the closest thing I can get.
Yeah. I was kind of leaning more towards that too. I'll be honest. I was thinking, like, is this like one of those gender, association type of situations where, anybody can call themselves a female, but if you're a woman, the whole Dave Chappelle thing.
Right.
I was wondering if it was something like that or not, but I don't know. So when she gets on here, we'll see it. But I guess, I'll start and ask you, man. And just so everybody who knows, who's on, knows, what we've got is we've got some technical issues with Jazmine. And it's funny because my church is having technical issues this weekend. And I know people are probably thinking,
City muted.
There we go. We hear you. No. All right. So anyway. Yeah. Jazz, can you say something now? Okay.
One moment.
So see, I'll just ask you, man, when we talked about the when you heard the subject and I presented it to you, what came to your mind? What was the first thing that came to your mind?
The first thing that came to my mind was really why there is a difference. You know, why do I speak to women differently than the next man? And me trying to deep dive and trying to figure out, you know, what could be some of the reasons, what could be some of those key factors that will allow someone to speak to a woman either on the level as they deserve or lesser than. So, you know, me trying to run through those factors in my head, it came, you know, already some of the stuff you said, you know, how they were raised, who they had around them growing up. I honestly believe that's probably the greatest factor. Also, you know, just how they value women. I think if you have a sense of value towards a woman, you're going to treat that woman different, whether it's verbal, physical, emotional, and it's just like having a car. You go buy a brand new 2022 BMW. You're not going to drive that thing any old kind of way. You're going to make sure it's clean. You're going to make sure ain't nobody close to it. You're going to take care of that thing. So because you have a sense of value for the car, I think is for certain people, it's hard for them to place value on women just like they can do with their more possessive things that really don't matter and compare to women as a whole.
Okay, so then with that, I also think, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, right? I also wonder how much of an influence the crowd plays as well, right? So if I'm with my friends, right, and I have a choice now, right, to either live up to this expectation that these guys or my crew or whoever has of me, versus how I really think would be the most effective way to approach or to talk to this female, right? And I think that sometimes guys, whether they know it or not, are juggling with that dilemma as well. You agree?
I can see that. I think it's a maturity thing too, because you know you get to a certain point, and you're not going to have people in your circle that's not going to live by the same values as you do. Right? There's been plenty of people I cut off because they did X, Y, and Z, and they just see things differently, and I just don't agree with it. I'm not going to have that energy in my circle because I know it can be devastating. And that type of thought process, that type of energy, it can become contagious for some people. So I think once you get to a certain point, you do kind of separate yourself from there. But if we're talking young men, I think it's harder for them to start separating those type of people out of their lives. So just like you said, they always got those type of people around, and that does play another factor.
So maturity, right? Maturity, the individuals you hang out with, the examples you do or do not have, all of that plays a role in, I guess, a lot of our decisions, actions, reactions, and things like that, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah. Shout out to Jackie and Asia, who are on with us. So, and anybody who's listening, I do want to encourage you to put your feelings in the chat so I can share it with Jazz and Chris and everybody else that's listening. So I had somebody ask me in person. I was telling them, hey, I'm doing the Next Level Man thing again, and this is the topic. Shout out to Ingrid. And it said, and he said, oh, and he's young, right? So let me preface it by saying that. He said, oh, there's a wrong way, you know? And I knew where he was coming because I know this young man, and I would assume that his approach would be the incorrect, what we'll get to as being the incorrect way, right? But so it tells me that I usually go by the philosophy, if there's one, there's more, right? So I believe that there are some individuals who don't even know that there is a wrong or a right way to love somebody, to approach or to talk to a female, right? Do you agree, Chris, that it's our responsibility as men who get it to check other men when we see it, and of course, appropriately, like oh man, how you gonna?
Right.
Do you agree, or do you think that it's on them to try to figure it out?
Whew. That's a tough one for me, because even with like my siblings or people that's real close to me, I know that I can talk to them till I'm blue in the face. There's certain things they just won't get until they're at that point where they're able to receive that information. So for the people that's close to me, and I had several conversations to try to teach them something, I could just imagine trying to go to a stranger and trying to school them on something like that. But I wouldn't be against the attempt.
Appropriately, I'm sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against the attempt. I think the greatest thing that we can do as men is just continue to lead by example and continue to try to produce the young men that's around us and try to mold them to try to break that thing that's so poisonous to women, and that's just not respecting them like they should. Should be respected. So
it should be respected.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I'll jump into it then. Jazz, you good, or what you thinking? Still working on it?
Okay. So now
we
can you hear me?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I can't hear you, but I'm gonna try to use my phone for a second, just to see if I can play around with some, with my computer and listen in using that.
Okay.
That's what I've been trying to go back and forth to see which one I can do, but
it's all good. We'll get it going.
So I'm
gonna do it. Jazmine, you said you.
But just to jump into, just to answer the question that you had earlier. So yes, I agree. Like we said, so for starters, there are those ranges assigned to people, and most time gender, like that whole binary of gender. So there's signs like there's babies, and then you go into a boy, young man, older man, whatever, right? Same for women. You have little girls, you have young women, you have women. However, my personal choice to say women isn't actually just rooted in that. Like, it's not necessarily like, I've earned womanhood, as much as it is most times when women are being referred to as females, it's usually not in a positive way, right? That's like one aspect. Also, the other aspect is the word female isn't actually the word that's supposed to describe human women, right? The word female is just supposed to be used to describe gender. So when you say female, right, you could say a female dog, a female cat. It's a female what, right? Female is the adjective, it's not the noun. I'm a woman, which is a noun, right? Female is not a noun, it's an adjective. So you can't call someone something an adjective, right? That's not a word you can use for in the place of a noun. So when you're calling someone a female, it's a female what, right? So if you're saying a female, then you can say a female person, a female human, because female is the adjective, not the noun. The woman is the noun, if that makes sense. So now I'm gonna just have to mute for a second, because I'm trying to get back in so I can hear you guys without interrupting the flow.
All right. Now we know, see? Now we know. So I'm going to go back to the question I was going to ask you. Shout out to Justin and Latoya. So obviously we both know, and I think obviously there's the reason we're on here, because we know that there is and there is not the proper way to speak to. There's a proper and an improper way to speak to women and talk to women, right? So when you hear it, and I asked you, Chris, what are some of the improper ways to speak to a female, right? What comes to your mind? And then I also want you to tell me, when you hear the word talk to a female or speak to a female, is it in general, like your significant other, or is it when you see a lady or a woman that you want to approach, right? Is there a particular way that you should or should not approach her, and all of those things? So I'll just open and ask you, what are some of the improper ways to speak to or approach a woman?
I think anytime you go straight, especially if it's a woman that you don't know, and you go straight to the body, and you just so raw with your compliments, I think that is one of the first no-goes out there when speaking to a woman, because that's not what they want to hear. And most women, who I spoke to over the years, they want that positive energy. They want that reassurance that someone sees them more than just their body, no matter what the scenery may be. And I think that's where a lot of people mistake, where they make their mistakes, because they think just because the scene is here at this club, that means that my language should depict more of an aggressive or more of a more disrespectful tone, just because we're in a club. So I think that's another mistake that men make, is when they try to base the scene on when they're meeting these women at, and they're saying these certain things. But I think once you go straight to the body and you start, aggressively complimenting the body, I think that's one thing that we can't do.
Got it. I'm gonna go to the chat real quick. Tanya says, she said, yes, that's an absolute turnoff. I won't even respond to that approach. So I'm like, yeah. So, and I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I do want to put it out there. This is not how Chris McDonald thinks, okay? But I will say, I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I'll keep repeating it. I might even put it across the screen, just as a devil's advocate. Some guys will say, well, look how she's dressed. You get what I'm saying? If she's dressed a certain way, it seems like she would want to be approached that particular way. What's the response to that?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yep, we can.
Is it fixed?
So sorry about this. I realized it's because I was using my work computer that they have all of these
blockages and stuff.
Yes, that it for some reason that it's for anything else I've used, it works, Skype, Zoom, whatever. But for some reason for this one, it wasn't allowing both. So I'm not sure, but yeah. But so I have my other personal computer now. So I'm like, okay, we got it. But okay, so one thing that and this is the one thing I was trying to say at the beginning, but I didn't get to in the whole intro thing, is that I understand that, we were raised and we live in a society where there are certain norms, right? But I personally, and a lot of people who I know, and a lot of people who just do a lot of the reading or just trying to learn, or I really unlearn a lot of what we were taught. One thing that we're actively trying to unlearn is associating value to presentation. So the way someone presents themselves does not equate to their value as a person, right? So it's the same as you wouldn't equate the value of a human life, like someone who does not have a home and lives on the street, you wouldn't equate their value as a person to how they're dressed in that moment, right? So you would give that same, I guess it's the same concept you give to women. You're not going to tie their value to what is worn, or I guess not worn in that moment, because that doesn't speak to what's up here or anything else that they have to offer, to be honest. So that's my thing. I feel like it's I understand why some people think that way, but it's kind of an outdated way to think. When fashion, style, and everything is kind of evolved in this way that people use that as a personal expression of self, you can't, to me, that shouldn't be the go-to. It's kind of, it's almost going, it's giving stereotypes. It's I'm just going to the quickest thing in my bank, and instead of me, actually taking the time to be a little bit more thoughtful, to say something a little bit more meaningful, I'm going to go to the first thing that's easiest. So it's kind of just an easy way out approach, to just look at someone's appearance and then assume that you know how to approach them based off of that.
Okay. Charlotta is in the chat. Shout out to Charlotta, one of my favorites. And Rajan, what up, though? And Johnny, Big Johnny's in the house, aka Roderick. But Charlotta says the way a woman is dressed doesn't always define the type of woman that she is.
No,
I agree.
it doesn't.
100% agree with that. Andre, shout out to my brother Andre. He says, is the argument that the presentation does not matter or should not matter at all?
Presentation matter.
Yeah, it's personal preference though. It's, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's what everyone likes. Like, you know, like I don't think there's one way to present yourself, because what attracts this Chris won't necessarily attract this Chris, right? So I don't think there is one way to present yourself to the world. And I think when people actually present themselves authentically, they attract the right type of person. So if there's you know what I'm saying? And it's not because someone's going to put stereotypes on what you're wearing, why it attracts them. It's just literally that if you are being your authentic self, the goal is people are going to authentically be attracted to you. It's not just because you're wearing some red bottoms. It's not just because you have on a dress that's a little below your knee or above your knee, right? Those aren't the reasons, but it's how you're, I guess, presenting yourself is more so what the attraction is linked to. So I don't think there's necessarily one way to do it, but people are also entitled to what they are attracted to as well. So if how you present yourself isn't what someone wants, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You have to also be okay with that too.
Chris, what you think?
You don't have to agree with me.
No. I agree with a lot of what you said, Jazmine. But I do think there are times where the presentation, and it's just not for women, for men too. If the presentation does not match the scenery that they're in, they will give off they will give off a mixed signal. So if I'm in a professional setting and a woman come in and she's dressing like she should be at the club, then to me, naturally, I'm gonna be like, dang, you know, what's she here for? You know, why is she dressing like that? Why is she, you know, half naked in this dress and we at a professional event? So I do think there is times where someone will wear something because they probably want more attention at that time versus others. I don't think that's the case all the time, but I do think you will have some incidences where women know what they're doing.
See, I guess that's where I needed some clarification.
They know what they're doing.
No, for me, I guess that's where I needed some clarification, because I didn't know we were talking about like any setting, presenting yourself. I thought it was literally only in settings of like, you know, you're just out, you know, like you're out and about. Maybe someone wants to approach you more like,
I mean, that's too.
Work settings, but
right.
Like I get with more, you know, like now with you explaining more. Yes, I agree with that. Like, I feel like it's still like time and place thing, right? Like if you choose to work, like I choose to work in a school. Do I like having to dress professional? No, but I know that like that's what's expected in that setting, right? So I agree that there is like settings, time, and place. I thought we were talking merely like if we are all in an adult setting and it's okay for men and women to be like kind of interacting more on that level. Is there like a way that women should kind of present themselves? That's what I thought the question was. So that was my confusion, but I agree. I believe
to bring it back, I don't think at all disrespect should come her way. So
good.
But
okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, but I do think the tone or the way that the man will approach that will change depending on the presentation and the setting of where they're at.
That's my different part though. I don't think the approach necessarily change, because if you have, because to me it goes back to, it's like character, right? Morals, the way you like the way you move around in the world. The way you move around in the world should not be interpreted by how someone else is moving in that world. Because if that's the case, that's not really who you are. So if you tell me you respect women, but in certain situations you're not respecting a woman, then you actually aren't as respectful as you're saying you are, because that woman's actions, I guess being in how she chose to dress that day, shouldn't change the respect that you have for women. So that's where my issue is with men, is that your approach to a woman shouldn't change, because if you're respectful, you're going to be respectful whether she has on clothes or doesn't, whether she is sober or not, whether she understands what's happening or not, right? Like you as a person and how you are shouldn't change based on what someone else is doing. So that's where I have an issue with men's approach being different. To me,
Some
I
men.
don't. Yeah, some men, right? To me,
Right.
that's what I'm saying. Well, a consistent man, he knows I'm not. He's not the one I'm talking about, right? If you're
Right,
consistent in how you're talking to a woman, any woman, whether it's someone you would find attractive, right? Whether it's someone you don't find attractive, maybe it's someone you find attractive, but you know their lifestyle wouldn't fit your lifestyle, right? Maybe you want to go into politics, you want to go into something that's in the public eye where you have to hold this image. Maybe you like them for real, but they're just their lifestyle isn't going to mesh well with yours professionally, what personally, your family, your religious views, whatever, right? But how you treat that person shouldn't change because of all of those factors, because that speaks more on your character than it will ever speak on the other person, you know?
I think we agree with that. See?
So that's why I can't really go behind the argument of, well, guys gonna approach you different. Why? You know what I'm saying? Like, that speaks more to them than it does to me.
But I still think you. But do you think you can have a different approach and still be respectful?
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. There's not one way to show respect.
Right.
But if you know your intentions are not like really coming from a respectful place, most likely not, like more than likely the other person's gonna
Sorry.
Right. But then also there's that whole thing of like people gauge respect differently. Like there are some women who don't mind being called, you know, B words, where there are women who do, right? So it's like some women think that's disrespectful, some women don't. So even that whole thing of like gauging what's respectful and what's not can be a little tricky. So I feel like, I don't know. It's hard to say. That's why I'm like, this conversation sometimes can be very hard to have, because I feel like there isn't like one way to speak to someone. There isn't one way to really approach someone.
But I do think that there's a right and a wrong way, right? These ways can be clumped into categories, proper and improper, correct?
Yes, like respectful and disrespectful. Yes. So it's like, yes, that's what I feel like. That's where more so the right and wrong is. Are you respecting that person, respecting their boundaries? Like if you go to a woman to just say, hey, how are you? And you see they're just not at all, you're like, you know what I mean? Back away. You know, like there's different, I think that's why I say this is such a layered conversation. It's a good conversation, but it is such a layered conversation that isn't very cut and dry because it depends on the situation, the context as well. But I feel like you can show respect, and then there's also to show disrespect. Like I feel like that is the right and wrong, if that makes sense.
Let me read what some of these people are saying in the chat. So Ingrid says, I don't think because a man or a woman dresses provocative, they should be disrespected. But at the same time, they need not to attract unnecessary attention. Shout out to Felicia. Diamond says it shouldn't be the outfit. Tanya says the presentation and the package does matter. Rajan, old school friend of mine, Rajan, I miss you. Hi. So anyways, she says, I personally feel a woman should dress to impress the man that she wants. You agree or disagree with that?
I mean, okay, so I don't know if y'all want to go first. No, that's why I say I don't know, like dress to impress per se, but just like put in effort.
Well, maybe not to impress, maybe
you know what I mean, right? Like don't you're not putting yourself in debt to have the best. But
skip the word impress and substitute it with.
But as long as it's intentional, like are you making sure just maybe fixing your hair up a little bit more. Like when you really care about someone and like someone, you are going to be more intentional with what you're doing with yourself, whether that is like, make sure you're going to have a hair appointment or nail appointment before your date, right? So there are some things you're going to do. So I agree that presentation matters, right? And the packaging matters, but not in the sense of, am I showing this woman respect? I feel like that's what it's always tied back to. So that's where I don't have a problem with the man who says, I don't want to date a woman who dresses like this, right? If they say that, and that's, that doesn't go with what I want to do, then I would let them know that I can't date them because, like I don't want to be, told what to do with this, and that. I don't agree. Right. But again, but I'm also not going to be upset at that man for having that preference, that choice. Whether or not is that choice rooted in something else, right? Could it be, some misogyny, some sexism, maybe why you feel this way towards women? Yes. However, I can't change your mind on that. If that's what you're looking for and that's what you want to go for, that is what you're going to go for. As long as when I tell you I don't want to do this, or I tell you I'm not okay with that, your response isn't to disrespect me as a woman or to make it seem as now my worth is less because I don't want to go with what you prefer.
Okay. Chris, what you think?
Personally, me, when I get dressed, I'm getting dressed to go after the woman, that type of woman that I want. So if I'm going for the businesswoman, I'm getting dressed in a business style setting to go after that businesswoman. Or if it's a woman of law, because I know she's going to be at this type of setting. So I do think people, men and women, do set up the package to try to attract that certain type of someone that they want or that they think will be attractive or attracted to them if they do wear or present themselves in a certain manner. So presentation, when it comes to the person you want, that definitely matters. I think that is real important. But if we tying it back and we bring it back to these young men, I think it's time for them to realize, and hopefully they'll start realizing it earlier than later. But we all was kids, and we all have done it. We all made those mistakes. But they have to realize that presentation does not dictate disrespect, but presentation will shine light on what you wanted to shine, what you want that light to be shined on. And if you want that light to be shined on your good qualities, then the way you present yourself will have that light shined on those good qualities that you want someone to see first. Or if you want to present yourself in a way and you think that presentation will give you those negative qualities that you want people to see, that light is going to shine on those negative qualities. But then you got people that just don't care at all. They don't care. I have a
question. What do you mean by negative qualities, though? Like, sometimes those terms, like, I don't really know what people mean by that. So that's where I'm like,
I think everybody have, negative qualities about them because, no one's perfect. So if I know that I'm a bad communicator, I'm going to walk in a room with the presentation like I don't want to talk. I don't want to communicate because I know that's not my top quality. Or vice versa. I might be a great communicator. So I might walk in, I might be smiling. I'm dressed in a way that is going to allow people to be more open to come talk to me. No matter what race you are, no matter what your hobby is, you're going to be more open to talk to me because that's who I am. I want to be an open communicator, and that's the way I'm going to walk in that room that day. Versus me throwing on a hoodie, some sweatpants, and I'm going to walk in a bar, which I know a lot of lawyers are in. They're going to come talk to me. Who's going to come talk to me? I might just want to chill in the corner and be by myself. Versus me walking in with some shoes and some slacks and a nice shirt and a tie. People going to talk to you different.
Okay.
And I think some of these things I think it's just like natural human instinct, and sometimes we don't even realize it.
See, that's the thing. A lot of what there really isn't that. Everything we do as a society are actually things that we're taught to do as a society. So the only instincts we have are the instincts to survive on Earth, like life and death. That's really the only instincts that humans are born with. Mostly, but it's like some of these social things we do are not things we're born to do. We were taught them, right? So even that whole concept of you wearing slacks and a tie and people are going to treat you better, talk to you different. There's a reason. That's like a whole nother category of things. Like that has to do more with like elitism, classism type things where it's like, if it's like the blue collar versus the white collar. That's kind of more so where that stems from, but it's really not natural. We're all taught that. And that's where, for me, that's why I say it's not so black and white. I personally wouldn't want someone who wants to date me. And like say someone wants to date me and they know that I'm a teacher. I wouldn't want them to go out of their way to, necessarily just like learn stuff about teaching or just like find little things, you know what I'm saying? Because to me, in that, like, when you go to a certain extent, it almost feels like you're trying to manipulate the system in a way, and you're not letting it go authentically. It's not authentic. So it's like, yeah, you could catch them, but is the goal to just date these women? Because again, that has to be your whole, like, am I dating right now just to date, to have fun? Because that's fine. Am I dating because I want a long-term relationship? Am I dating to look for like a long-term life partner? What's the goal here too? So that's the thing. I think one of the first things we need to tell young men isn't just how to talk to women, but first ask yourself, what is your purpose? If you are 22 and you just want to date women, then you have to be honest about that. You have to and make that clear, and that has to be your intention. But you know what I mean? Like, you go into that space to date them. And so if you decide that you want to know, just like little, finesse women, spit game, do that, then yes, you're gonna try to fit into what would attract them. But if your goal is something more long-term, then I feel like trying to manipulate the system isn't actually going to get you there long-term. It's just what's going to catch their attention, but it's who you are. Like, are you comfortable with wearing slacks and a tie and a business shirt 4 days or 5 days a week? Or were you okay with just doing it that one day, every 3 weeks for a date or something, So it's like, can you even maintain this image that you're presenting to others? And it's like, if you can't, that's not your authentic self. And the person you're trying to attract isn't going to stay attracted to you in the long run anyway.
Okay, let me go to the chat real quick. Great stuff. Shout out to Danetta. Shout out to Denise. Alice says, when you know she is presenting improperly, take the high road and be respectful. You don't know her history, and you may just be who she needs to hear to bring her up, per se. I agree with that. Rajan says, don't forget that men are visual creatures. I was taught as a young person.
Everyone is a visual creature. That's actually scientifically not true. Everyone is visual, and everyone has 5 senses, and all senses can be stimulated for everyone.
Okay.
I'm just trying to throw the science out. We've been taught things that aren't actually scientifically correct. So,
okay. Yeah. All right. Shout out to the educator. I'm down with it. Charlotta says, I feel a woman should dress like a woman at all times. I don't think a man wants what everyone else has seen. Rajan says, what about the man who talks to a woman who is dressed provocative and then wants her to tone it down once they're in a relationship? So, and it sounds like we might be getting a little bit in other categories and topics, but I think that these are great things to think about.
It is. I think we got to talk about that, right? Because like my generation too, or like even younger than me, like the ones that are just coming in, like the 17 and 18, 19-year-olds, right? Because I have a good 10 years on them. Yeah, I'm about to be 30 this year. I'm 29. Okay. I know.
Okay, we see you.
I know. As long as I age like my mom, I'm okay though.
I know that's right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't. You know what I'm saying? Even that type of like, I guess, verbiage, the rhetoric of like dress like a woman. Like I don't think there is one way to dress like a woman.
Or maybe they mean lady. Maybe
Yes, I know that's what they mean, but even that it comes from a place like that's misogynistic language that's taught to women. It's what my generation we call like pick me language, right? There are women who they put their value on themselves, right? And even others around them on how they can present themselves to be better than other women, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, there's always this competition of like, well, I don't dress like that. I don't act like that. I haven't had sex with that many men. I haven't. And it's like, that actually doesn't increase your value because guess what? There are women who've had sex with one man and they're getting cheated on. They're getting abused. They're getting lied to. So it's like, there is no way to be a woman, right? Because that even goes into how to be a wife, how to be a mother. It can go into all these other conversations when there actually isn't one way to do that, because a man is going to treat you respectfully if that is a respectful man. A man is going to be honest with you if he is an honest man. A man is going to just be a provider if he's a provider. Like, these things are not going to be conducive to if the woman acts a certain way and presents herself a certain way. These are the qualities that a man will have, or just any person will have, because those are their qualities. It's not due to how someone else presents themselves. Like, I feel like if a man is genuinely honest, he has integrity, even if he gets cheated on or something, he's not going to stop providing for his household. He may say, I want to end the relationship, right? But he's not going to throw this person out on the street and, like tell lies about them, smear their name, their potato. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's certain qualities that if someone really holds these qualities, regardless of what someone else does. And that's why I try to teach my son right now too. Like, it doesn't matter what anyone else does. If you say you're this way, you're going to be that way regardless. And if you can't be that way in the presence of that person, the most healthy thing is to remove yourself. But tying someone else's actions to what someone does or how they present themselves, it kind of gives, it's taking away the power from you and honestly like putting it on the other person. Like, well, they have the power to make you be a better man because they dressed better, or they have the power to make you be a better provider because they did this, when it's not really that. People complement each other and work well together, but the qualities that someone has are going to be there before you're in that relationship or not, you know?
I agree. Okay. So let me ask the question then. I asked this question and then, you know, I don't even know whether we answered or not, to be completely honest, but well, I think we did, because I asked, what is the improper way? Is there an improper, obviously there's an improper way. So I want examples of how a person should not approach a female, regardless whether she's dressed what society might say is presentable or she's not. I in Rochester, I was riding down Main Street one time. I went past the Armory. There must have been some sort of concert going on there. I saw girls literally in thong, bra, and heels. Right, that female, that woman, sorry, should not be. I'm like nervous to say female now. I'm scared.
That's what. First, don't be nervous. It's
no,
like
you make me scared. So, anyways, that woman should not be spoken to any differently than the woman who has just gotten off of her 9 to 5 or whatever at City Hall, or you know, at the high rise on Manhattan, right? That's going to get her latte, right? So.
But they could wear a thong and something too when they go to the club. You never know.
No, I get that. What I'm saying, regardless of what they look like when you see them, right?
You talking moment in time, though.
In the moment in time, they do not deserve any level of disrespect. Is what the three of us agree on, right?
I agree with that.
So. What are some of the improper ways? If Chris sees a female that he is attracted to or he wants to get to know, what are some of the improper things that Chris should say? What are some of the improper things that Chris should be careful of not saying to this woman? Please don't call me outside of my name. B, sweetie, honey, etc., etc. was in the chat.
No pet names.
No pet names.
Yeah. And even that, it doesn't feel genuine, because like you can call anybody sweetie. Like when I forget a student's name, I call them sweetie. You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like even just be a bit more. A lot of men just lack the creativity of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, is there a way you can compliment someone without literally talking about their breasts, like specifically? Is there another way you can like talk about that? Is there another way you can compliment? So it's like sometimes I think that's usually what it ends up being, is men take like that lazy route in the approach instead of.
Are they lazy, or
at least being a little bit more creative?
I don't think it's lazy.
But my thing is, if you're just gonna say, "Oh, look at that fat," like, okay, yeah. But like there wasn't a better way. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. Like,
no, there could have been a better way for him to say that, but that's what he sees. So
I know.
He's so dead. What he sees.
That is true, but it's
versus the woman who making it harder, who's at the latte shop or her business suit. He can't go in there and say that. He gotta be creative.
That's the thing. He can. That's the this isn't this whole like can't and can. You can. Maybe he wouldn't, but he can. He just chooses not to, because again, we've associated attire with the level of respect we give people. That's really what it goes. That's really what you're telling me right now. It boils down back to is he sees her in a business suit, so he thinks, nah, she's a woman that respects herself. I gotta respect her, so I can't yell, "Hey yo, bitch." I can't say that to her. But this one over here, she might be okay with that. You know what I'm saying? Look at her. Look at what she got. When it's like, you don't know that. And actually could be in reverse, where this woman could be okay with that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. You don't know that. I didn't write the rules.
But who wrote the rules? That's the thing. That's when you get down to the nitty gritty.
They were written way before me.
We know that. It's old white men who wrote these rules, right? They're the ones who put it down to why even us black people, even black men look down to black women so much. It's like, it's Black History Month. We gonna, You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about that part where if the Black woman never had value, that's why even now we're still not giving that value. That's why you'll see Black men will even give white women and other mixed race women more respect when they try to approach them than they will Black women, because we were never given value. And most and honestly, like, you know what I'm saying, colonialism, the whole concept of slavery and white men in charge perpetuating whatever views they have has touched the whole world. It's not just America. It's touched the Caribbean because they colonized there. It's touched everywhere in the world. So these views that we have, even just that view of women being inferior, that's not even a Black person thing. Like in historical Africa, you have a lot of matriarchal societies where the women were actually in charge and ran the societies. So honestly, Black men don't even, so that's what I'm saying. So even this whole concept of, like, you know, when you hear people talking about alpha men and I'm this and I'm that, it's not even a real thing, because you don't
think there's no such thing as being an alpha male?
There's not. The man who coined that term came back and debunked it, because no, I'm not gonna give you the science. So the whole concept of an alpha man it comes from this whole concept of thinking that with wolves in packs, there's an alpha wolf that leads the pack, and that's actually not even true. The alpha, right, the wolf that's in charge, actually stays at the end of the pack. The women usually are in the the strongest ones kind of are in the front. The weaker ones, whether it's the older ones, the children, and anyone who might be injured, are in the middle. And this leader that they coined the term alpha male from is actually at the end, which is not how society is ran. So the one that actually has the most power stays at the end to protect, to see if there's any danger coming. So the man who coined the term alpha male, and I could literally Google it right now, it's taking me 2 seconds. He came back like 3 years later to say that actually isn't a thing.
I can understand the breakdown, but
so that's what I'm saying. So that concept is not real. No, I just think there are men
who are going to be more dominant in a room than others. That's just natural. This is how it is. If I put 10 men in a room, not all 10 men are going to be as dominant as the one to the left and to the right.
Yeah. What do you mean by dominant? Just like verbally dominant? Just like, what does that mean?
Verbally, leader. It's gonna be one male in there to run that whole show. That's how it happens. It happens in the prisons. That's how it happens.
It happens in the circles I've been in too, Jazz. I won't even front.
You know why these things happen? I know, because these circles are honestly, that's what I'm saying. It's the norms of society. That's what I say, the ones that I don't conform to, right? My partner, even though he's a man, there's a lot that he does not conform to. And I think that's also my proximity to a lot of queer spaces, why I've learned that, like, there is not this one way to even be a man. Like that there's no one way, right? To me, a man or woman, it's about people who have integrity. Are you honest? Are you respectful? Are you kind to others? Do you give everyone respect, right? Not just people who you think can do something for you. People you know who can do nothing for you. Do you show them respect? Do you care for them? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, those are the things that make quality people. Just because someone can come into a room and manipulate a setting to get others to do what they want does not make them
not manipulation.
Most times.
Let me say this.
Go ahead.
I don't believe it's manipulation either, because I have actually had a guy pull me to the side and say, "Chris, I'm really trying to learn how to be an alpha." Right?
That's not being an alpha. That's assertive. He wants to become more assertive.
Can you please tone it down a little bit, because you automatically.
She didn't even give you a chance.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what he said. And so he essentially was asking me, don't be yourself.
He's not talking about me. He's talking about the friend.
Oh, he's talking about okay.
Mm-hmm. Look at you.
But let me just get back to the topic, right? Because we have to wind it down. We have to wind it up here pretty soon. I think that the chat has stayed a little bit more on topic than the three of us did. Some people said, don't call me
no lot. It's a lot to talk about.
It is a lot to talk about.
It's layered. It's not just like...
We'll do a part two.
Part two coming soon.
Most definitely. And they're saying, don't call me baby, don't call me yo, don't call me B, don't call me. And I think Chris in the beginning, before Jazz got set up, he said, stay away from the body. You know what I mean? Jazmine says, try to think outside the box, try to be authentic, try to be creative when you're trying to approach a woman. I want to ask a question here. So far, I've been of the mindset that women have the power. If women are tired of men dressing a certain way, doing a certain thing. All women have to do as a whole is stop allowing it or stop entertaining it, and men will have no choice but to change, right? If women are tired of men who walk around with their butts showing, right? If women stop entertaining those men, the men will have no choice but to start pulling their pants up. If women are tired of men saying, yo, baby, or hey, dang, ma, you know what I'm saying, or whatever, if they stop entertaining that, if they turn the cheek and walk away from these guys, the men will have to come up with other ways to approach women if they want to stay heterosexual and deal with women, right? I'm saying women. I haven't said females yet until right now, right? Do you guys agree with that? Do you agree that if the woman that essentially, I'm a little nervous because she scares me. Do you agree that the woman really controls or has a lot of control over the way men, not males, men typically or could end up approaching women?
I think if your theory came to light and it was a perfect experiment and all women changed, and it would have to force men to change because it's natural selection after that.
Right.
That
yeah,
they're gonna have to change if they want a woman. So,
agreed.
But is it realistic? Nah.
Is it realistic? Maybe not. Maybe not
realistic.
But if Jazmine is tired of men, every boyfriend I have, man, oh my goodness, I wish I had a boyfriend who would just, sit up straight at the table or would open the door for me, wouldn't call me, baby, because it's not authentic. Because Jazmine says she calls her students sweetie, right? These fake pet names in the beginning, right? Then if Jazmine stopped dating guys or stopped entertaining guys who did that, then the guys who really liked Jazmine will catch on and change. Right or wrong? No. What do you think?
So, I think that putting accountability for one other person, it goes back to what I said again. Putting accountability for what one group of people does on another group, it's their responsibility, is shifting responsibility of one's actions. So it doesn't matter. We live in a patriarchal society. It was structured by men, set up this way by men. So even though you think us women have the power, we don't. We don't. That's the structure of our society makes it so we don't have the power.
Hold on, have the power to what? What type of power are we talking? Because we talking relations.
Did I lose
women definitely have the power.
No, even then, you see a lot of times women don't really have the power because look at a lot of times what happens. You have the women who are begging for a lot of things, wanting a lot of things from men. And most women, especially, and again, we talk about some women, sometimes we try to clump the experiences of like white women with black women when a lot of our experiences are not the same, right? So the experiences for most white women who get married off and like, they get that lifestyle, a lot of times doesn't end up being the experience for black women. And the more poor you go, because that's the thing, the economics plays a part in this too. And the more poor you get, the more the experiences differ. So that's why I feel like it isn't this just one cut and dry. To me, that's why I feel like the tool isn't, oh, women change how you are and men are going to change. No, I think the tool is actually educating. Like as you raise little boys, I think that, and I honestly, like, no offense to y'all, I honestly think y'all generations is kind of done for. Like you guys have cemented in your ways mostly. So there are certain things you guys are just going to keep doing, right? Like, so that's why you saying female isn't going to offend me because I know it's not coming from a malicious place. I know it's just what you're used to doing. So again, can I educate you or whatever, like tell you why I don't agree? Yes. But I'm not going to like beat this down on you. Like you need to do this. No, because I know that you've been doing this for as many years as you've called women that. 20 years, 15 years.
Until I changed the flyer. So you did kind of beat me up and bully. You did.
No. I didn't. I just told you that I wasn't going to participate if you didn't. So you can still say the word female. I'm responsible for my actions. You're responsible for yours. I'll tell you my stipulations, and that's it.
And so here's the thing. I think that in the beginning, I said that the main reason I do these things is because there are three things that typically happen with men. One, they don't know any better, right? Two, they have the wrong examples, and 3, they don't have anybody to ask, right? And so that's why we do this thing. So it really comes into education, and it boils down to each one teach one, and we can each, at each opportunity we have, build somebody else up. Now, whether they take it or not is up to them, right? So the whole female and woman thing, I really appreciate that, because it's a whole joke about me being scared of Jazmine, because I ain't scared of Jazmine. I know her dad, right? But I am now afraid to, in a respectful way, I'm afraid to disrespect or offend someone by using that term, because it makes more sense to me, right? So I want to end this by saying,
That's the goal.
what?
That's literally it.
That's
it's to make
exactly.
you think. That's
Exactly.
it. Like Chris over there, he wants to come at me because I know I could feel the energy. He wants to be like, oh, she over there giving feminism energy, which don't call me that either, because that's rooted to white women and racism.
I didn't even say
I know, but I can tell by the energy that that's what you're
Chris.
thinking. You don't gotta say it. You don't gotta say it, right?
Listen.
But the point is, that's it. I just want people to think about these things so we can start to shift the conversation. Tell these young men also, have friends with women that they're not trying to sleep with. Like, actually understand, like, men are not taught that. They're not taught how to have platonic friendships. They're not taught how to have can your friends hold hands with their friends without it thinking that it's going to lead to something else? Can you sit on a couch together? Can you do, like, I think the whole, like, men getting to be better with women, it's going to start with us breaking down those gender norms of like, well, men are just visual. They just want this. When it's like, no, men want to be touched. Men want to be loved. Men want to feel secure emotionally. They want to be in places where they can be vulnerable emotionally, but we aren't creating those spaces because we're still expecting men to operate in this box of how they like talk or approach women or deal with women, when we kind of got to break all of that down, because what you guys want is exactly what we want too. We want to feel loved. We want to feel secure, whether that's physically, financially, emotionally, but that requires a lot of what we expect from men and women to actually change. So I think that's really where that starts.
Okay. Chris, you got anything you want to say at the end? Let me just ask this question. This is how I always like to end it. And so let me just stop. Chris, if there was one thing with this topic in hand, in front of mine, the proper way to talk to women, and there are nothing but males here who want to learn something. If there's one thing that you want them to take away tonight for you too, right? Yeah, early morning for you. What would it be?
What would it be?
Yep.
Take your time and just really take your time. Don't force it, and just try to pick their mind. Just try to pick their mind. So I see myself, and me talking to women, the first thing I say, it got nothing to do with their body, got nothing to do with their looks. It's more about their day. It's more about their love language. It's more about their hobbies. It's more about it's going to be something that's going to open up a dialect that we can grow on. When the last time you've been to a museum? Because when I ask questions, I'm asking questions for the long term. And just like we talked about, you got to know your purpose when you go and talk to a woman. So I think just like Jazz said, once you figure out that purpose, then that game plan is going to be written up in your head to go, okay, I'm gonna go talk to her like this. But just, you got to take your time and know what you want, and stop talking to women just to talk to them, just because you can, because now you're just wasting time. And that's something nobody could get back, is time.
Tell them it's their time they're wasting too, because sometimes
It is
women they don't even like. So it's just like, I think that's what we have to root it in. Like, talking to women, the goal shouldn't be sex. Because if that's the goal, that's where you have this whole group of like incel men now who are angry because they can't have sex with women. The goal can't be sex. The goal has to be actual relationships. Literally, there's a whole group of men who are angry at women because they can't. They're called incels. But the goal has to be relationships, build genuine connections.
I agree with that.
I think that's what's going to make it so it's easier. And honestly, it'll make it easier for these men to have sex too, because they're having real connections with women, and these women aren't going to feel like they're being manipulated to do this for this. They will already want to because they have that connection.
Got it. All right. I thank you both. I love you both. Thank you very much. I do want to say something real quick. Let me just do some quick shout outs to my brother, Frank. Frank is in the house. Janine is in the house. And I saw somebody else that was in here. Oh, my man Kashard, what up, though? So and Rachel. So I do want to thank the both of you. It is very important that I make it known that when I'm proud of individuals, and I'm proud of both of you. Chris serves our country. He is overseas right now doing his thing. I salute you, man. I'm praying for your safety, your safe return when you get back over here and in the States, man. I love you and I appreciate what you're doing for the country, man, and for putting yourself last, which in my opinion, according to Jazmine's definition, is an alpha male, because you're putting yourself last and looking out for the safety.
I see how you flipped it. I see what you
If
did.
you want to take it that way, I'll go with that. I'll go with that. He's protecting the pack. That is an alpha male.
Nah, but love you too. I appreciate the platform. I think these conversations are real important. And I think having different personalities and different viewpoints is also important because it does create a better conversation. And these comments, we're getting some good comments in there. So I appreciate everybody logging on, and I appreciate Jazmine. I appreciate you too, Chris.
Thank you very much. And Jazmine is an educator. She takes our babies and she gets them right. And as you all can tell, she doesn't go by the curriculum of the educational system per se. She does make sure that these kids are educated in a way that will set them up for success in life. So Jazz, I really, from the bottom of my heart, do appreciate what you do in life, in your career. And I love you. And I just hope that both of you continue to be successful, and everybody who has joined in. Shout out to Diamond. Thank you very much for everybody for joining in. God bless you guys. God bless America. And hey, next Tuesday, I'm going to have Frank and Mona on here. We're going to be talking about some of the essential skills that every man should have.
That's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I think it should be good. So
got to build that toolbox up.
Yeah, most def.
Yeah.
So Chris, stay safe. I know it's late over there. It's like 3 o'clock over there in the morning.
It's 2:10 in the morning. You know, it's nothing.
In the morning. Okay. Yeah. I appreciate you guys. Stay safe. Peace out.
All right. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.